Have you ever had a moment in your life where everything you've been working towards comes together in a perfect click? Oh, it's like magic when it happens. But what happens when that click occurs, it starts propagating a series of cracks that destroy your life? That's what happened to me just over a decade ago. I had wanted to be a dentist since I was 2 years old. If you can imagine, I was this tiny little kid with crazy blonde curly hair trying to charm everyone in my wake into letting me play with their teeth. And that love of teeth carried me through university, where I also developed a love of dance. At 24, my dreams came true. By day, I was going to be a perfect dentist. By night, a famous professional dancer. The only problem is, I am extremely shy. As a dancer, I stepped into the character I needed to embody to be confident on stage. But as a dentist, it was a different story. When I had to talk to adults, I would start getting in my head about how stupid everything I was saying must sound. My workaround was to work with kids, because I could just tell them stories about all the different colored sugar bugs I was removing from their teeth, how they were doing cartwheels and backflips up into the suction. And for the first 4.5 years of my career, it worked. But then I reached a crossroads where I had a choice. I could stay the shy, perfect associate in my comfort zone, or I could pivot and start realizing my full potential. Like Kismet, I landed a locum for a 78-year-old dentist at an adult-based practice, and my transformation began. The first day I arrived at work, when I opened the door, what greeted my eyes was unlike anything I had ever seen before. The carpet, once beige, was blackened from years of dirt and cigarette smoke because it had never been cleaned. The first patient I laid back in the chair actually grabbed the tubing to the drill to support it because they knew it didn't work properly if they didn't. Not only was the environment in poor repair, sadly, so were the patients. The majority of the work placed the previous 3 years looked like Pac-Man had gone in and eaten underneath it, because it had been placed on a bed of decay. And patients knew things weren't quite right. They knew the old dentist probably should have been wearing gloves about a decade before he did, and remembered his fingers tasting like alcohol and cigarettes. They knew when he dropped the restoration on the floor, picked it up with his bare hand and blew it off and put it right back in their mouth, that wasn't quite right either. And it was a curiosity to me why they stayed. It turns out they really liked him. He was charismatic. He was larger than life. He made them feel seen. And then there was me, the shy little wallflower who literally wanted to disappear. Now, even though the scenario was plastered in red flags, every day that I walked in there, I felt full of hope and sunshine because I could see the potential in everything. I could see the potential to step into my power as a dentist and reinvent my brand. So I decided to buy the practice and started chasing my entrepreneurial dream. I crafted the perfect plan, and everyone I told it to told me there was no way in that broken down practice I would ever achieve my dreams. So I decided to prove them wrong. And over the next year, I worked harder than I ever had in my life, and by the end of the first year, I had increased production by 73%. I had climbed the impossible mountain of achievement and was looking down, seeing my hard work come together in a perfect click. And it was magical. But that click started propagating a series of cracks down the mountain that would soon have me in free fall back down to the bottom. In dental school, they told us if we took really good care of the patients, we could avoid being sued. I had tried to take perfect care of the patients. But my life changed on a Tuesday afternoon when 2 registered letters arrived at my practice. I'd never received a registered letter before, so I was actually pretty excited about the whole thing because I thought it was a milestone in being a business owner. So I happily took my letters into my office, opened the first one, and as I started to read it, the room started to spin. I laid down on the floor, Opened the second one, and the news was just as bad. Two of the employees that I had inherited with the practice, who had worked for me for 9 and 10 months respectively, were suing me for $150,000 for wrongful dismissal. Soon after, patients were canceling left, right, and center. And when I asked them why, they told me they didn't have jobs, they didn't have insurance, they didn't have money, because while I had been so busy chasing my entrepreneurial dream, I hadn't noticed that around me, the economy had soured, and we were now in the full throes of the global financial crisis. Between the weight of the lawsuit and the weight of the economic downturn, I started to feel like I was being crushed. And for the first time in my life, I realized I stood to lose it all. I stopped dancing. I stopped talking to my friends because I was so ashamed that I had climbed the impossible mountain and I was in free fall because I'd been naive enough to believe that I could make my dreams come true. The only thing allowing me to even feebly try to gain a toehold on my career was knowing that on the eve of my 30th birthday, I would know my fate. I would know whether these two ladies had either accepted or countered my settlement offer. So at least there would be some sort of pathway forward. The eve of my 30th birthday came. 4 p.m. came, I heard nothing. 6 p.m., crickets. By 8 p.m., I finally got a hold of the lawyer and she told me they hadn't bothered to respond. I hadn't even known that that was one of the options, and I had been waiting these last few months for this moment to determine what my future held, and suddenly I was in further free fall. All the pain, all the shame, all the fear I had been shoving down started to tornado inside me, and I started to spiral out of control. And it hadn't been that long since I was actually full of hope and sunshine, and now all there was darkness. I eventually peeled myself off the floor, walked down into my basement, and as the cool air hit my face, I felt relief because I knew my pain would soon be over. I climbed up on the stool that I'd placed, reached for the rough rope that I'd hung, and as my hand clasped that rough rope, my cell phone rang. All I wanted tonight was to give into the darkness and end my pain. But I also didn't want to alarm anyone to anything being so wrong. So in order to maintain appearances, I picked up the phone. It was a patient who had asked me to do what the old dentist would have done, which was place another 5-service pinned IRM. And tonight, she had eaten some jujubes and had sucked that IRM right out of her tooth. And now she needed me. She needed me. I took a deep breath. I stepped off the stool and I slowly walked back into my life. I took all my pain and channeled it into achievement. I rebranded my practice. I started competing internationally in dance. I developed my voice as a choreographer as well as a voice in the dental community. That phone call changed my life. Sitting in the darkness, I realized that the world actually needed me. But if I was actually going to make a difference, I needed to find my voice. That moment changed the course of my life as well, to end up eventually selling my practice and developing the Unleashing Empire, which includes my social media company, my professional dance company, my business coaching company, as well as my speaking brand. During the pandemic, so many people have sat in the darkness and wondered if the pain was even worth it. And when you have climbed the impossible mountain of achievement and you are in free fall due to failure, whether it's health, wealth, or career, it can feel life-defining. But rock bottom doesn't have to be about how hard you hit. Instead, it can be about how high you choose to bounce back to reach the greatest heights of your life.